Hey, welcome back to Clever Cat class. Are you ready to learn something all new and be a very clever cat? Me too. Today, I got curious about something called the African wild dog. Now, the African wild dog's also called the Cape hunting dog or the African painted dog, but no matter what you call it, it's a large, intelligent canine with a complex social life that's actually really similar to a wolf. In fact, the African wild dog is the second largest dog species after the gray wolf. Now, you can find them hanging out in the hot plains and grasslands of Africa. They live in tight-knit packs of 20 to 40 animals, and once an African wild dog joins a pack, it'll stay there forever. Now, curiously, African wild dogs are sometimes confused with hyenas, and it's true that their reputation isn't a whole lot better. See, like hyenas, African wild dogs are often on humans' list of least liked animals. Now, I actually think that's pretty unfair, since African wild dogs are as social, playful, and full of mischief and energy as a lot of domesticated dogs, and they have just about the same need for loyalty and social life as the pet you have in your house. They wouldn't make good pets, though, because unlike domesticated dogs, African wild dogs are constantly on the move, and a pack will rarely stay in one location for more than a day or two at a time. Now, like I said earlier, the African wild dog is actually the second largest canine in the world, with only the northern gray wolf beating them out. Though it should be said, the gray wolf only wins because it's heavier. African wild dogs are sometimes taller, so if the ranking were done a little different, the wild dog would win. Size isn't all, though. African wild dogs are also incredibly communicative. They have the ability to make a range of eerie noises to convey whatever it is they're feeling. They also have body postures humans sometimes find disconcerting, but really all that grinning and bowing to one another is just a show of submission or friendship. All that, and African wild dogs form an intensely close pack structure whose tight bonds make the pack a force to be reckoned with in any environment. See, that's another place African wild dogs win out, because African wild dog packs are actually ranked as the most efficient hunter of any large predator, and it's believed that the packs are successful at catching prey like antelope, pigs, zebras, even wildebeest as much as 80% of the time. Even more impressive is the fact that if the pack size is large enough, the African wild dog pack might even take on some of the largest and fiercest predators in the world, like the hyenas and even lions. Now, it should be said that the wild dog pack usually just surrounds these massive predators and circles them with their odd grimacing and noisy style until the predator decides wherever the pack wants is the area the wild dog should have. Now, given the African wild dog's hunting success rate, it's really no surprise that the pack shares food freely. They ensure that pups, the sick, old, injured, they all take a share of any meal. Now, all that's pretty impressive, so you might be wondering why people don't like African wild dogs. See, a lot of people think that the incessant communication between pack members, including some pretty awful screaming, means that the pack is in a constant state of chaos, but really, the dogs in a pack are rarely aggressive with each other. The African wild dog pack is extremely tight-knit and works as a big, well-oiled machine, with every dog knowing what needs to be done and very few shirking in their duties. Now, as sometimes happens, if one or two are feeling particularly lazy, the rest of the pack simply builds their energy up with a sort of doggy pep rally where the whole pack trots around shoulder to shoulder and tails held high, occasionally jostling or even mouthing one another until every member of the pack is excited and raring to go. Now, all that being said, as with any pack, there's definitely a hierarchy that has to be followed, right down to the pack being led by a dominant male and a dominant female. Usually it's only this pair that's allowed to have pups. Now, female African wild dogs are pregnant for about 6 weeks, and as the time for the pup's arrival draws near, the female will find a safe place like an abandoned aardvark den where she can give birth to as many as 20 puppies at a time, though a more normal amount is about half that. Now, regardless of the number, once those pups are born, the entire pack helps raise them to adulthood, ensuring that they're defended, fed, and learn all the rules of pack behavior. Now, curiously, one of those rules is actually that the dog who begs the best is the dog who gets to eat first. But regardless of who gets fed first, the entire pack will stop its roaming lifestyle while the pups are young. Now, that's not to say they all stop eating. Most of the pack will go out twice a day to find fresh food for themselves, but more importantly, for those pups. But that's actually pretty gross. When the hunter finds some tasty prey, they'll gobble it down and then hurry back to the den where the pups are waiting. Once there, they'll regurgitate that tasty meal so the pups and their mother can eat. Yes, that means the pups and the poor mother eat vomit, which is really nasty if you ask me. Now, a vomit meal is fairly awful, so it's really no surprise that as soon as she can, the mother will leave the pups with a babysitter, usually a group of adult males, and go out looking for some food firsthand of her own. Now, eating aside, because the entire pack works hard to just raise that one litter of 10 to 20 pups, the puppies do tend to catch on quickly, and they become fully contributing members of the pack by the time they're about 6 months old. Oh, yeah, and another oddity about the African wild dog, the female is usually larger than the male, and the females are often the pack leaders. In fact, it's usually only the females who sometimes leave the close-knit pack to go form a pack of their very own. The males, they usually stay with their birth pack for their entire lives, falling into line under the alpha pair, naturally led by a female. Now, I've already said that the African wild dogs communicate a lot, but the noises they make are really quite unique. See, they can squeak, chirp, and even hoot like an owl. And while they do make more normal dog sounds like huffing and whining, it's important to note that the African wild dog usually doesn't bark at all, making them perhaps a lot higher on my list of favorite dog species ever, since nothing ruins a good cat nap faster than a barking dog. Thank you so much for learning with me today. We're really getting quite clever, aren't we? Now it's time for you to check your schedule, and I will see you in your next class.